All right, once again, good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Baker, and this is Senior Tech Coffee. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and attend this talk. We're going to be discussing online safety and security for older adults. So how can our older adults, and really anyone, be in the online world and navigate that safely? So let's go ahead and get started. Prime of Life Tech is the sponsor of our Senior Tech Coffee Series. I have 30 years of experience in IT. I provide technical support and training for older adults, small businesses, and senior care providers. I provide my services both on-site and remotely. And in addition to teaching skills to folks to help them feel confident with their technology, I also offer these free online technology classes. You can learn more on my website at primeoflifetech.com. So at any time, if you have any questions or if you want to let me know where you're attending from, feel free to enter where you're calling in from or dialing in from, as it were, in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to add those to the chat, and I will address those as we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about online safety and security for older adults. We're going to talk about some of the different types of online fraud and scams that are pretty pervasive out there, especially now with people spending a lot more time at home. We're going to talk about some ways that you can stay safe online. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about managing your passwords, because that all kind of ties into the whole security end of things. We'll have time at the end for any additional questions if you have them. And as I mentioned before, you can feel free to jump in and ask a question at any time. So let's talk about online fraud and scams and just the different types of things that we are having to deal with out there. So to begin with, there are lots of different types of financial scams. That would include anything from bank account, credit card, brokerage accounts, where you're being contacted typically via email or phone, but also text messages are being utilized now, where someone's posing as your bank, your brokerage, your other types of financial accounts. And basically, they're trying to extract information from you, specifically information about your identity. And we'll get to some more details about that here in just a moment. In addition, fraudsters posing as either the IRS or Social Security or another type of government entity. And again, these can come in the form of text messages, phone calls, as well as what are known as phishing scams using email, robocall scams, such as robocalls telling you that you shouldn't go out and vote, for example, as well as emails that appear to come from offshore royalty or other financial representatives. The mythical prince from a African country, or someone representing a trust or something that is purporting to have some money for you. So anything that kind of doesn't pass the sniff test in terms of these types of financial lures, as it were. In addition, the tech support scams, where someone posing as, say, a representative from Microsoft customer support calls you and says that they have some issue on your computer that they're asking to basically take control of your computer. And ultimately, these types of things are either to extract information from you or other nefarious purposes, which we'll talk about here as we go along. In addition, so what's the purpose? Identity theft, people trying to get information from you that could, basically be used to fake your identity and open up, say, for example, credit card accounts. So that type of information is that's unique to you. Stealing your money, basically trying to get access to your accounts or getting you to actually voluntarily give people money, as well as deploying malware. And malware is kind of the all-purpose term that encompasses things like viruses, computer viruses, but also ransomware, where a bad actor will basically lock you out of your computer, and the only way that you can get back, regain access to your computer is by paying a ransom. So at any rate, so those are really the purpose of these online frauds and scams is to try and get one of these things from you. Or the the other thing is that malware can also be deployed that will essentially log your keystrokes and could transmit that information through some back channel like email to the person that deployed the malware. So some nasty stuff out there you just need to be aware of. So online fraud and scams, they try to leverage your emotions. They try to throw you off balance. And so what are some of the ways that that these fraudsters can try to leverage your emotions or push your buttons emotionally, as it were? So first off, one example is creating the impression of a false emergency. The classic example that I've heard of is someone who is posing as, say, my grandchild, who is trying to basically tell me that, hey, I've traveled to such and such a place, and I'm stuck here. I need money to get home, or I've broken down by the side of the road and I need money to do X, Y, and Z. So that's one classic example. But there's other types of false emergencies that could arise as well. They could be financial concerns, someone posing as your credit card and trying to say that, hey, we have these suspicious transactions that we noticed on your account, and we need you to give us the following information that would basically identify you and allow someone to either access your accounts or again, steal your identity. In the tech support scam example, someone calling to report to you that you have some sort of computer problem, or maybe a pop-up on your screen that says, hey, you've got such and such a virus on your computer. Click here to avoid getting your files infected and that sort of thing. The lure of financial gain, basically someone saying, hey, we've got this big pile of money that we want to give to you. Problems with the IRS or Social Security, especially for older adults. Anytime a government entity might contact you, that might raise a concern for you, that might throw you off, increase your anxiety. And when we're off balance like this, it's easier to fall prey to these types of scams. And then, of course, the financial concerns, like, someone has breached your IRA. They have gained access to your checking account or your other brokerage accounts. These are some of the things that that can be used to try to leverage you, to try to take advantage of you in a scam type situation. So what are some of the ways that we can, what are some strategies that we can use to stay safe online? How can we combat these types of scams? So first off, um, don't give out any personally identifying information, or PII, as it's known in the security world, whether it's over the phone, through an email, a text message, or transmitted through a website. Um, the personally identifying information is going to be the key pieces of information that make your identity unique to things like financial institutions, government entities, and that sort of thing. So we're talking about things such as your full name, your date of birth, your social security number, your driver's license number. Those are just some examples of some key data that's unique to you, that you don't want to be giving out freely, unless it's in a situation where you're either online or over the phone with a trusted source, but also, and this is key, where you initiated the contact. See, so for example, the IRS, they're never, or Social Security, they're never going to call you or email you to report a problem with you that says, hey, someone stole your identity. Hey, you're going to be audited for tax year, whatever. They're going to send you a letter through the US mail if they need to contact you about some issue. Um, so, um, so unless you've initiated the contact over the phone or through some online portal, or that sort of thing, you don't want to be giving out your PII, your personally identifying information. Don't respond to suspicious texts or emails. You want to make sure that, again, that you initiated the contact. So if someone is contacting you and claiming to be, for example, um, your bank, where they want you to, through an email, click on this link and log into your account and do such and such, um, that should raise a red flag to you. Unless you can see that it's a trusted source, unless you can see that it's an email that actually came from your bank. So, and I'll show you here in just a minute a couple of ways that you can sort of um, test the waters, as it were, to see if something is legitimate or not, especially with an email. Excuse me. So the other thing is, you don't want to click on links in suspicious emails or texts. Text messaging has kind of, I should say, scam-based text messages have increased a lot in recent months. One of the things that has actually, I guess, reduced in frequency is and this is according to an article I read today, in fact, in the New York Times, is the amount of scam phone calls. They, because of people, especially working people, um, who are working from home now and spending a lot more time at home. And in addition, people of any age have kind of grown leery of answering phone calls where they don't recognize the number. Um, that can be spoofed, first off, the caller ID, but independent of that, they've been sending more texts and emails to try and lure people into giving away their personal identifying information. And also the online quizzes that you see, where they want you to, for example, provide, hey, what's your hometown, or what is your favorite? What was the name of your first dog? Um, what was the name of your first grade teacher? These types of online quizzes, the questions that they ask can correspond to security questions that you might use for, say, as a backup measure for identifying yourself uh, with your bank online, or with some other type of online account. So you want to be wary of these online quizzes and the kinds of information that you're giving away freely, which could be used to try to scam you. So if you actually receive a phone call from someone that is purporting to be your bank, a credit card, or a broker, um, you should hang up the phone and you should call them back using a published number. It could be the number on the back of your credit card. It could be the number off of the actual bank website, for example, or the credit card's website. But if you are contacted by one of these entities, financial entities, and they're basically contacting you to report some sort of problem, you want to be sure to verify this for yourself. So hang up the phone, cut off that contact, and initiate your own contact with that particular financial entity, and just verify that everything's good on your end. And you can also report to them that, hey, you received a call at such and such a time from someone purporting to be, say, First Bank of Colorado, or US Bank, or Chase, or whatever it is, Capital One, and report the fraud to them, and they'll be on the lookout for any sort of suspicious activity that's going on with your accounts. Make sure your computer has some type of antivirus, anti-malware software installed, and that and also make sure that you choose a product that has active scanning. Active scanning means that essentially that software is up and running, and it's on the lookout for any malware or viruses that might be deployed to your computer, either through an email, through something you clicked on, in an email, or on a website, on a suspicious website, those types of things. Okay. Question. So how do you call using a published number? What does that mean? So what I mean by a published number is that could be, so let's say, for example, that I've received a phone call from someone claiming to be from Capital One, or maybe, it even showed up on the caller ID because they spoofed it as Capital One. So if my credit card is calling me, um, first off, I want to hang up, and I want to contact them through a known valid number. So when I say published number, I mean either, like, it could be the number that's literally published, as it were, on the back of your credit card. It could be from the actual, in the example I gave, the Capital One website, where they publish their number online if you want to contact them over the phone. So that's what I mean by a published number. Does that answer your question, Deanna? Okay, let me know if not. Um, anyway, to continue here, as far as your devices, whether it's your computer or your mobile devices like a tablet or a smartphone, keep your operating system, whether it's iOS or Android or Windows or Mac OS, keep those updates current. Make sure that those are updated. Any programs or apps that need updates, make sure that you install these updates. Unless you see a notice or a write-up in like a technology resource online, like say ZDNet or PC Magazine, or even something published in the news with a regular news source about problems with any sort of update, you should try to keep all your devices current and updated with any sort of changes that they have. And the reason for this is that there's often a security fix or two that comes along for the ride with these operating systems, programs, and apps. And the reason that the security updates are published is so that people can't hack your computer, hack your phone, that type of thing. It closes the loopholes or any possibility for hacking by keeping those updates current. And let's see. Okay, gotcha. I was just checking the chat here to see the last comment. The next thing, use secure websites. Let me show you an example of what that's about. Let me find, actually, I'd have to get out of my, let me go to a website. So if I go to Wikipedia, this is, I'm using Safari here, which is the Mac browser. Up there in the web address bar, there's that little padlock icon next to Wikipedia, where wikipedia.com. That is, or .org rather, that's the indicator that you're at a secure website. If I were to go to Chrome, and if I go to Chrome, I'll have to get out of my presentation here. But over here in the address bar where it says docs.google.com, blah, 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 the little padlock there in Chrome on the address bar, that indicates that it's a secure website. And the reason that that's necessary is that any communication, this is especially important for things, any kind of site where you have to log into it, especially something to do with money, with your finances. So that could be credit card, bank account, brokerage account, your healthcare portal, anything where you want your information that you're sending over the internet, also the information that you're getting over the internet, you want to make sure that's over a secure connection to that website. And that's your indicator, is that little padlock. When you're online shopping, consider using credit cards instead of debit cards. I guess this is changing a little bit depending on the institution, the financial institution, but historically, if you used a debit card to make an online purchase, let's say you saved the card number to your LL Bean account, just as an example, with your debit card. If LL Bean had a data breach, someone was able to extract all of their client information that included your name, your credit card, your zip code, anything that someone could use to make purchases with your debit card without your knowledge. Historically, debit card fraud purchases were not as easy to get refunded as credit card purchases that were done fraudulently. So just something to bear in mind. The other thing is, like, and this is an example, Capital One. I happen to use Capital One anytime that I have made a purchase with my credit card that could have been deemed suspicious. So for example, let's say like when I was traveling in Europe a few years ago, and I made a purchase in a geographic location where I don't normally hang out, like in France, for example. I got an alert on my phone through the app that said, hey, we just noticed this transaction, click here to approve it, because we want to make sure that it's not a fraudulent transaction. So, and there's those types of safeguards are built into, depending on the financial institution, debit cards for banks, specific banks, and that sort of thing. But I encourage people to use a credit card over a debit card. The other thing is that a lot of credit card companies, Capital One included, and I'm not plugging them, that's just an example, that's just what the devil I know, using a virtual credit card. So basically, in Capital One's instance, they would essentially ask you to install what's called a plugin for, say, Chrome or whatever web browser that you happen to be using. And that plugin will basically generate a virtual credit card number that you can use for online shopping or purchases online. The advantage there is that it's something that is unique to you. Oftentimes it's just a single use credit card number, and it's just another secure method for making online purchases and not exposing yourself, in the event of a data breach. The other thing that I also strongly recommend is that anytime you use a credit card on retail websites, or even to like pay your electric bill or whatever, don't save your credit card information on these websites. Um, that's where you get into problems with data breaches in the future. See, if you never save your credit card information on the LL Bean site, on the Excel Energy site, whatever, um, then if they, in the event of a data breach, no one can use a credit card number that's not stored there. So it's just another safety measure if you want to be really, really tight with your security as far as your personal use of credit cards in the online world. So basically, just remember that if you didn't order it, you didn't buy it, you didn't ask for it, or you didn't initiate that contact, the call, the text, or the email is probably not legitimate. Okay, so unless it's something that is from a trusted source, where you ordered that book from Amazon, you bought those airline tickets from Iceland Air, you asked your bank to contact you about some matter, or you initiated that contact over the phone or via a email. You want to make sure that you're the one that started that conversation. Otherwise, in my book, it's suspicious. Also remember, and this is the old adage, if it seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is. So that's going back to the notion of the financial lures, like the Nigerian prince, the executor of Lord so and so's will over in Great Britain, that sort of thing. And let me just check the chat again really quick. I can get my meeting controls to show up for me. That's the only problem with screen sharing. There we go. Yeah, that's another great example. Deanna just mentioned that she's been getting random texts from someone purporting to be FedEx saying that your package is on the way when she didn't have anything on order. So yeah, definitely online couriers. Again, it's people trying to extract information from you and using, these pretending to be trusted sources when in fact they're not. Then, by the way, thanks, Deanna. That's a great reminder. I just want to show you another couple of things here when we get done showing you some slides. The last thing I want to mention for staying safe online is that if you get scammed or you lose money through a scam, you should report it. This is the website for the FTC's complaints for any types of fraud or scam, whether it's over the phone, text message, website, email. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation, I'll have a recording of this session as well as these slides available as a PDF and after the program here later today. So you don't have to write this stuff down, and all the links will be clickable in the PDF. I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about managing your passwords because your passwords are kind of the keys to the kingdom for all of your online accounts, or for really any sort of device access even. So getting into your phone, into your tablet, logging into your computer, that type of thing. Now, a lot of people have it set up so that you don't have to enter a password to get into your computer and use it, and that's fine too. But as far as like apps, online accounts, that type of thing, just about everything has a password now. So just some quick tips about passwords. You don't want to share those insecurely, so don't email your passwords. Likewise, managing or storing your passwords insecurely, whether it's in your paper notebook, the stickies that are on the border of your monitor, or on your desk, that type of thing. Um, Create strong passwords for your user accounts, and ideally you're going to update those every 90 days if possible. Um, Use a password phrase. So in the example I give there, um, what it's trying to say there is, I like walking the dog. So, and I've substituted numbers for certain letters and that type of thing. A strong password uses a combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and the symbols that you can type by pressing the shift key and a number on your keyboard. For example, like the exclamation point that I've got at the end of my example password there. Create a unique password for everything. Don't recycle the same password, because if someone through a data breach gets access to your, say, your email address and your password, and you happen to use those two pieces of information every time you log into some online account, if they happen to stumble upon or have knowledge of other online accounts that you have, and you use the same email address and password everywhere, that's a problem. Um, when you're creating or when you're updating your passwords, make sure you create a new password. Don't just make a little tweak to an existing password. Like in the example I have there, don't just add like an extra exclamation point at the end. Make a new password. The other thing is, I suggest not reusing the Remember Me option for apps and websites. That way, you log out of the session. When you're done, or when you close your browser, the session ends, and it's that way. If, for example, you lose your phone, you lose your tablet, or your computer is stolen, people can't just get in and start using your online accounts because the computer remembers you or the app remembers you. Um, I suggest signing out of websites and apps, and that's sort of the corollary of not using the Remember Me feature. And then I also suggest that you use a password manager for creating, storing, and managing your passwords. They'll also help you generate these strong passwords that have the right combination of characters that I mentioned before. Um, when you're in a public place or even in someone's home, excuse me, don't uh, don't log into websites or services unless you're on a secure Wi-Fi connection. A secure Wi-Fi connection means that you had to use a password to get onto that Wi-Fi network. Excuse me. So if you're in a pardon me. So say you're in an airport, you're in a hospital, you're at a restaurant, and they have a open Wi-Fi network where anybody can get on that network. Um, you're potentially vulnerable to what they call packet sniffing, where someone could be monitoring the traffic on the network, could be intercepting the information being transmitted over that open wireless network, and potentially a hacking vector. So just something to try to avoid. But in those instances where, let's say, for example, you're at the airport, you need to, say, transfer some money from one account to another account while you're logged into an open network, open Wi-Fi network, consider using a VPN piece of software. You can get those for your phone, your tablet, your computer. A virtual private network is what VPN stands for. And essentially a VPN it creates that secure layer around your session or your connection, I should say, with that Wi-Fi network. And that's something you can run all the time, whether or not you're on a secure Wi-Fi network. And my rule of thumb, generally speaking, is that if you have more than 3 passwords, which pretty much everyone does, you probably need a password manager. And the other thing with a password manager is that it enables you to hand off your passwords in a secure manner to someone you trust. So if you are ill or disabled, and which is something we have to think about right now, or for that matter, as part of estate planning, a password manager is a great way to get all of your online accounts and stuff organized in terms of how you access these accounts, where you go. You can even store notes that include things like answers to security questions. And even as part of your estate planning, a password manager helps you organize all that information, whether you need it for powers of attorney or your will. So just some things to think about. So that's pretty much the end of the information that I wanted to share with you today regarding passwords, regarding staying safe online and some of the scams and the online fraud that I wanted to make you aware of and to give you some strategies to avoid. So does anyone have any other questions that I can answer for you? And you can feel free to unmute yourselves and ask me verbally, or you can use the chat, whatever you're more comfortable with. Okay, well, just jump in at any time. I just wanted to mention again that this is my contact information. My name again is Patrick Baker. You can reach me through any of these sources here online. The link there for YouTube is that is my YouTube channel where I post the recordings of all of my Senior Tech Coffee workshops. So you can go there and you can check out and watch any of the past workshops that I've given. Also, feel free to since we've transitioned to Meetup, you'll get announcements via Meetup unless you opted out. You'll get announcements of future sessions that are coming up, and I'm going to have one scheduled here on the 18th that I'll announce here within the next couple of days. So I've got one more November Senior Tech Coffee workshop that I'll be hosting, and then I'll probably just have one workshop in December. Anyhow, you can reach me or find out about future sessions through any of these links that you see here, or contact me. Yes, please.
Yeah, would you mind explaining again password manager and how you get that, or is that
Sure.
different? Is that different than the like a friend of mine has an app or something that stores all of her passwords, and I'm really reluctant to do that.
So yeah, it's a password manager is basically an app or a program that you run on your computer or on your mobile devices. Um, most of the standard password managers, they require what's known as a master password, which is basically the password you need to use to get to your other passwords. Now, the reason that I'm such a strong proponent of password managers, and I checked this recently, I have over 200 passwords myself. I don't recycle passwords, so my passwords are all unique. Um, and if my password is going to be a complex or a strong password, it's going to be between 10 and 20 characters in length. It's going to have that combination of numbers and letters and symbols. And if I have over 200 of those, there is no way that I can remember all of those passwords. So, so first off, I might be an extreme example, but most people, like I mentioned on the last bullet of this slide, most people have at least 3 or more passwords. And if you're using unique passwords, if you're using strong passwords, and if you want to have the ability to access your passwords on any device, if you want to have the ability to use a password manager as part of your digital legacy. So in other words, how do you hand off your passwords for your online accounts to either your agent, if you have designated someone through a power of attorney, if you're disabled, or if you're, say you're, God forbid you get, COVID and you're in the hospital and you're in an induced coma, and someone needs to pay the bills. Those types of things, a password manager just makes it easier to manage your passwords, but also it allows you to use more secure passwords. So it generates strong passwords. You need to be using strong passwords. The simple passwords, the passwords that are 10 characters or less, let's say less than 10 characters, the passwords that are really easy to guess, password 123, password, literally those things. Those are the first things that hackers try. Hackers also have software that can try like 10,000 different passwords in less than 30 seconds. Ridiculous capabilities like that. So the better your tools and the stronger your password, the more secure that your accounts are. So that's really kind of the whole push behind using a password manager, I think. And that's what I use. That's what
Is
I
there
recommend.
one you recommend in particular, or?
There's actually several that you should check out. So I don't recommend a specific one because I think people need to first off decide, um, do you want to use a free password manager, or are you willing to pay for it? And usually and a lot of the password managers, the popular ones, have both a free and a paid version. And typically the difference is that you get some of the more advanced features, like a family plan, like for example, where everyone in your family could have their own password safe, as it were, using the same software. But let's say you only paid one price for it. Like you get a deal for multiple accounts under the same billing, as it were. The digital legacy thing that I mentioned, where you can designate a specific person as your agent or someone who is authorized to access your passwords. Those features are typically what come with a paid version of a password manager. The popular ones are LastPass. I actually have I'll add a list of the password managers that I recommend to the slides, and I'll make that available through the download option. That you'll get a notification from Meetup that the slides are available for download, and you can check those out. But the other thing I would do is you can check out, if you just Google like best password manager 2020, you'll get a couple of links to things like PC Magazine, ZDNet, and they typically run an annual roundup of like the best of lots of stuff. But password managers is one thing that they write about. The other thing, actually, let me just do one other thing I want to show you folks. Thank you very much for attending today. I wanted to just show you, this is an example. This is my email. And if I point to one of these links in my email, notice how that it shows you where I would go if I clicked on that link. Now there's a bunch of stuff that looks like it got, this came through, what was it? I want to say, Constant Contact. So those email services like Constant Contact or what's their name, MailChimp, they will often add some extra stuff to an address, a website address. Like this is a Zoom link, and you can see what the actual link is supposed to be here. But when I point to it, notice the link is something completely different. Now, this came from a trusted source, but I just wanted to point out the fact that without clicking on anything, I can point to a website address in an email, or I can point to a link if it's just the words, like this one here. And it shows me where I would go if I clicked on that link. That's just another way for you to check out whether or not something is legitimate. So if you get an email that says, hey, you need to log into your bank account right away because we have this fraudulent transaction, if it looks like even if it looks like it's officially from your bank, it's always worth it just to look at the details and make sure. The other thing is that you can see what the actual email address is. Like in this case, I'm using the mail software that comes with the Mac. And so if you're using Outlook, there's a way, it'll be a different method. Or if you're using Gmail, there's a different method for doing this, but you can actually see who the email came from. And if it comes from like this one came from this person at seniorsbluebook.com, I know that's a legitimate email address from an actual person. But if the part that is between the @ sign and the .com, or the @ sign, and even if it says like .gov or whatever, you want to make sure that it looks legit. So that's just another thing I wanted to point out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, so if I type in best password manager 2020, there's a whole bunch of paid links up there where you can see the ad next to it. But here we go, PC Magazine, best password managers for 2020. And they list, these their top 11 picks in this case. So Keeper, LastPass, Dashlane, Bitwarden, those are all recommended versions, or I should say vendors for that type of thing. Anyhow, that was all that I had to discuss today. So I appreciate you hanging around. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to chime in. But otherwise, thank you for your time today, and look for the notification about the recording and the slide deck. Yeah, thank you, Deanna. I appreciate it. Great. Well, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.